And I want to hear today from you, Paul, all about yourself and about Capiche.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's nice to be here. So, Capiche started probably 7 years ago now. It was a Thursday night. I hopped online looking for a tool to help my son with his writing and wasn't able to find anything that worked well enough for him. I have spent a career building technology.
Yeah.
My son has a clear need, and I'm fortunate that my father is a linguist, lecturer, and phonetician. So we got to talking, and we cooked up something which started to show promise of help. Later, roughly 7 years later, we now have a tool which is available to everyone. It's live, and we're looking to spread the word, get more people involved so that we can learn from the community, learn from people who really want to help shape the direction and build a product that's there to help people with that gap between what they think and being able to commit that to the page so they can share it.
Wow. You know, when my son was 8, he had what they call a developmental delay. So he struggled to write.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of haunted him all the way through his education. He was bright. He was erudite, but he couldn't actually take what he had in here and put it on paper easily. In fact, when he did his building apprenticeship, he really struggled to do the paperwork involved. Yep. And, you know, it was all to do with that shadow of really struggling at school, really not having the tools, the reader-writer resources back then in those days. It was a wee while ago. We're talking, 20 years ago now.
Yeah. It's a common story. And so for my son and for many of the other kids who use Capiche, there's an enormous gap between what they're capable of, their thinking, their ability to speak, their ability to convey their thoughts, and what they're able to commit to the page. And we have people who've used Capiche who are as young as 5, and one of my most prolific users is a 54-year-old bloke from Petone, I think. So,
I love that.
So this is not something which is restricted to school. It's not something that's restricted to kids.
Yeah.
These challenges can exist. They often surface during education, often surface during schools, but they follow people for life. And the thing, as a technologist and as a father, but the thing that frustrates me more than anything is that this problem isn't solved yet.
Yeah. And it should be.
It should be, and it can be. Yeah. And that's the thing that drives me nuts.
Yeah. We've had a few amazing guests on, and one of them was Ben Maris talking about the future of AI and tech and how actually it makes it more of a neurodivergent world. We equally had Maria Magda on, who works for the Ministry of EdWorks, supporting ADHD youngsters and going, we're just not where we should be. Yeah. And so what we want to share with our podcast is resources for parents, but also for neurodivergent adults to know that there are many tools out there. There are many ways forward. And actually, I do tend to think that tech makes our life a whole lot easier.
I agree. Two thoughts happening simultaneously in my mind. I don't know whether it's true or not, but sometimes I think that now is the best time to be dyslexic since the advent of the printing press, because finally technology is catching up, and text, which is everywhere in the world, writing is not an optional part of society, nor is reading. Yeah. But we now have technology that can help. And I think that AI offers lots and lots of possibility, but there's a really specific gap which I'm trying to address with Capiche, and that is the ability to enable people to communicate their own thoughts. And so most people, I think, at the moment are using AI almost like a copywriter to generate the email, to simplify the text. And the founding principles underneath Capiche, it's about preserving that authentic voice, about preserving your words, about making sure that you express yourself. And that fits very well in an educational context. But I think there's also starting to be a reaction to the never-ending generated text. And I think that we will see people come back to wanting to be expressing themselves.
Yeah. Tell me, how do you do that? How does it do that?
So Capiche, at a technology level, uses a combination of traditional rules-based algorithms, so algorithms that you could think of as being pre-AI. We also use large language model technology, which is very powerful and very useful. And we use knowledge about how the English language is structured.
Yeah.
And we combine the best of all of those three to build an individualized support mechanism. Because Capiche is personalized. Capiche is also based around this very clear belief that the way Sandy understands language and the way Paul understands language is different. And what that means from a support perspective is that the support that Sandy needs or Paul needs might be different. And so what that means from a Capiche perspective is that we treat each user, each author as an individual, and we adapt how Capiche behaves based on what we see from how you're producing language and the corrections that you make. So it's a personalized, individualized writing support that's all about preserving your voice, expressing your thoughts, and reducing those barriers from what you're thinking to being able to share it with the world, which so often happens through text.
This is really interesting because what I'm thinking about, Paul, as you're talking is I trained years ago in one of the cornerstones to neurolinguistic programming, written by a Kiwi guy, David Grove, called Clean Language. It's a therapeutic model primarily, but it's also a coaching tool, and I've used it in my leadership development practice a lot. But it basically works on the principle that when someone's unpackaging something or they're telling you a story, the last thing you want to do is interject or reframe anything in your language. You really want to repeat what they're saying in their words and help them speak clearly, because words are powerful. And he used to say that a metaphor, which we often use to describe things that we don't have a language for, is like an amphora, where you're carrying information from one space into another. And the last thing you want to do in any context is cut across someone's thought processes by reframing that amphora, by changing the very container that the words are held in. How does Capiche do this? Does it learn the language of the user?
It does learn the language in the sense that we sit at a really interesting part of the editing process or the text production process, because as we have thoughts and we commit them to text, Capiche works through a keyboard. So as we type, we produce language which may or may not contain errors. Capiche looks at what you produce, it looks at how you're correcting it, and it uses that difference to understand how you are modeling that thought into language and that language into text. And so we build, I hesitate to use the word model, but we build a picture of each individual author and we feed that back into the algorithms so that the algorithms are better able to support each user. So over time, the support gets better. We build a better picture of the user. And this is only speaking really at the individual level.
Yeah.
Because one of the areas that I really want to pursue, and one of the opportunities that opens, if we have a tool which is supporting users to express themselves through writing, and if that tool has visibility of what you produce and what you mean, that tool then has all of the information that we need to understand quite specifically how you are understanding language, or how you are understanding the production of language or text. So then if we take that model and we say, okay, now let's imagine that we give that not just to the dyslexic kids in the school, let's give it to the whole class or the whole school or the whole region or nation, whatever. What you have is you've then got kids producing work at school, which is the work they would be producing anyway as part of their curriculum. You've got kids who are better supported in producing work that they're proud of and they can share. You've got a system where we can start to understand on a student-by-student basis where they are on their language acquisition journey. And I have a really strong conviction that we can use that data to help identify the kids who perhaps are not identified that need support.
Yeah.
And from there, we can identify what support that they need. And so in this way, there are a few things. Firstly, perhaps dyslexia stops being the preserve of the wealthy, because we're the only ones who can afford the diagnosis.
For that.
We start identifying kids who need support. And I'm really, really clear. We're not talking about diagnosis here. We're just talking about identifying people who need support.
Yeah.
We use the information to feed into the education system to help support teachers in providing the right support. We're not replacing education. We're not replacing teaching or learning. We're there to enable teaching and learning. And so what we do, by little more than replacing the spell check that people use, is we don't disrupt curriculum delivery. We don't disrupt education. We help some kids a great deal. We help some kids maybe a bit less. But we help the education as a system as a whole to be able to provide more targeted intervention to those kids who need it. And so we lift the tide for literacy for everyone. It drives me nuts. To me, it's so clear that this is a problem that exists.
Yeah.
It's something we should work to improve. It's not a question of can we do it. We can do it. We just need to decide we want to do it.
And that's where it comes to policy, isn't it?
Yep.
That's where it comes to advocacy. That's where, part of our voice here is to advocate, but also to share with the world the tools, the innovations that are in development for parents, for education facilities, for professionals, for workplaces. And, I see so much potential in what you've developed. And then I'm also thinking about the benchmark data. Now, not in terms of diagnostic. I'm thinking more in terms of getting slices of where challenge exists and where that twice exceptionality, because I see neurodiversity as twice exceptionality. So rather than having the sort of well-rounded norm profile of a neurotypical person, a neurodiverse person has what we call twice exceptionality. They have those spikes of, absolute amazing exceptional ability, and then the challenges that are equal and oppositely reflected against it. And in some ways you can't have one without the other, but support and tools to help people navigate this, but also to help the neurodiverse person understand that just because they don't have a well-rounded profile doesn't mean that they're not capable of functioning fully in society.
Yeah.
We need to be moving towards that. Otherwise our prisons are going to be overflowing. Because I think there's a neuro tsunami coming our way, Paul.
I agree. It drives me crazy. It's clumsy, but the best analogy that I have arrived at, if we've got kids in school who struggle with short-sightedness, we give them glasses.
Yeah.
That's so that they can participate, so they can demonstrate their learning. If you have kids who struggle to read, you give them text to speech. If you have kids that struggle to write, give them speech to text, give them Capiche. There are lots of things that we can do. Well, we don't tell kids to squint harder. So why do we tell dyslexic kids to try harder? We shouldn't. We need to move past that. And it's just, it drives me nuts. It's just a matter of will. We just have to decide that we're going to change the way this works. And we can.
We can. Innovation's slow. We know that. Where you have a system that's used to operating a certain way, it's designed that way. And look, trust me, we're not begging our educators here. We love them. They are full of wonderful humans who are operating within a system that has limited resources, and the speed of change is slow. And we understand that. We're not bureaucrats. We're not rebels either. But what we want to see is a shift.
A bit of a rebel. It's a rebel.
Tell us about you. What's your association with neurodiversity, Paul?
Well, just before we get on to me, but coming back to that, absolutely, education, teaching, learning, skilled support, they're all really, really important parts of the picture. I'd say innovation's not slow, but finding the channels to enable it to be adopted at scale, that's what's slow. That's the barrier that I'm trying to break through. Anyway, me.
Yes.
What would you like to know? I am the father of a twice exceptional child. He's the inspiration for all that I'm doing in Capiche. I'm angry that I have to do it because this problem should be solved by now.
Yeah.
But I do it because it needs to be done. And I'm fortunate in that I can see a path which I think will improve things, so I feel obligated to do it. And I enjoy speaking to you. I enjoy doing the work as well. But this is something which I can make a contribution to. So
yeah. Do you identify as neurodiverse yourself?
I don't, because I don't. I spoke. My mother's an educator as well. She has long told me that she thinks I may be dyslexic, but I've never been diagnosed.
Yeah.
I've never explored it. I don't feel that I need to particularly. I think that my contribution to this is the practical work to try to build something that helps.
Yeah.
That means that the people doing work like yours to sort of increase awareness and people who are advocating, all really valuable work. It's not the role which I'm trying to play. I'm trying to do a small, targeted, practical thing because I'm fortunate to have that sort of intersection of need and capability and network to be able to make progress. So that's the part I want to play. And if you want to come and be part of it with me, let me know, because I welcome all comers.
Well, there's so much opportunity out there, I think, in terms of the difference it can make. I know when I was scrabbling around looking for tools, looking for resources to help my son, I was stunned. And I was working as an executive at the time. I was well resourced. I had, as you talked about it, the wealth behind me to get the assessments, to understand what was going on. And I did, there wasn't a rock I wouldn't overturn to figure out how to help and what to do. And I was mind blown how difficult it was, because I knew I had a kid who was bright, but I knew that he couldn't learn the way that a neurotypical could learn. He needed something different, and he needed to be able to get some tools. And I remember at the time he had a laptop, and he used to love being on that laptop, and the education system, they didn't want him to use it.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of pull it away from his education, and that was an anathema to him, because it sped everything up for him. He could type faster than he could write.
I'm not surprised to hear that. It's interesting though, because parents are actually some of the most powerful voices that we have in this world. I say that as a parent. I know how hard that we have fought to get Ben the support which he has been able to get. And it's a huge challenge that systems are constrained by resource, and systems are constrained by bureaucracy, and systems are constrained by so many things. But it is hard as a parent because it's just relentless. It just doesn't stop. And so the more ambitious end of what I'm trying to do, it's beyond helping the individual. It's about finding ways to make the systems more suited to the kids that we have, to the need, and finding the people that can work alongside what we're doing to enable that. Because again, I come back to it. It's not should we, it's not can we, it's do we want to. I want to.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. 100%, Paul. And I'm just so delighted to hear your story, because I think it's people like Paul who's doing this innovative work that actually can make lives a whole lot easier. If you'd been doing what you were doing when my son was 8 and I was scrapping around, in fact, I spent years in the wilderness trying to find resources and tools, and there was so little. I picked the eye out of everything that was available. I put it all in a book now, which I'm publishing shortly, but I'm kind of going, why are we so far behind? I'm reflecting Maria Magda's voice from the Ministry of Ed. Why are we still so far behind? Why are we so stuck?
Bureaucracies are slow for a whole heap of reasons, right? And that's the reality. And that's not to say that bureaucracies are bad. They're a necessary part of how we govern and arrange things, but there's a reluctance in bureaucracies to take risk. And I think that that's valid to a point, because bureaucracies are responsible for putting to use our communal resources as a nation. So there has to be some confidence behind the direction that we take. But there are things that we can try which they're not expensive, they're not difficult. The downside of things not working is, well, things don't work. We learn, we move on, we try again. And so it's about finding the it's about finding the people really who are in the positions, who can make the decisions, who can drive the change, who can open the door, who can start things, the snowball rolling, so that things can grow. And so this is my constant puzzle. It's like, who are they? Where are they? How do we connect? How do we get involved? What are the barriers we need to overcome to allow people to feel that they can make a confident enough decision to try something, to try to make a change? So yeah, we're working with the people who are engaged so far. We've got some schools, we've got some parents, we want more. Capiche is out there, it's available, it's free. Sign up, try it, and tell me what you think. I want feedback, I want engagement. I genuinely want the people who have the need to be telling me where Capiche sucks, because it's only through that
that you'll learn and grow.
It's only through that that I can address it and improve it. And that's all I want to do.
So we're going to put all the links to everything in here in this podcast when it goes live. So you can click on, you can contact Paul, you can access the software, which is free for goodness sake, which is amazing. And, so there's no barrier to entry here. I would imagine all the data privacy issues have been well thought through.
Yeah. And everything is safe. We've got a number of schools using it. We're looking for more schools. I'm about to release Capiche for Education, which will make managing pupils within a school much more straightforward. Let me know what barriers you have to using it, actually. That's the main thing. If you can tell me what stops you from saying yes, then we've got a chance to fix them and move forward. And this is all about helping people. This is not about, this is not some sort of nefarious startup money grab. I just want this problem solved, guys.
Yeah, and it is a big problem, and I think the problem is possibly bigger than we realise. We're just starting to kind of uncover now the opportunity, and I always look at problems as being opportunities to be solved.
Yeah, well, I'm taking every opportunity I can to solve this. But that's the key thing. It is solvable. It is solvable. It really is. We are not hamstrung. This doesn't have to be... we just need to make the decision that we want to try something a bit different.
So let's just talk for a moment here, if you will indulge me, on practical reality. So say I'm a parent, I've got an 8-year-old kid, and I'm thinking that because I was in this position, who's got a developmental delay, struggles to write. I'm relatively well resourced because I've got technology, and I think the school systems now are much better because we've got iPads, we've got tech, we've moved ahead. In fact, they're even using AI as assisted learning models. So what would I do? I get hold of you, I get the free version. What do I need to run it on?
So it will run on any Chromebook, any laptop. You probably get away running it on an iPad. It's not yet suited to a phone, but eventually will be the keyboard on your iPhone and your Android phone.
Yeah.
But it's as simple as visit the website. There's a button which is try Capiche, an email address, and you're in. You're off to the races.
And is it really easy to download and access? Do I need to be a tech person?
It all runs in the browser, so it's just a website. You visit the website, there's a simple editor. You can type, you can voice type, you can paste text.
So it's voice activated.
You can voice type with it, you can keyboard type, you can paste information. It will look at what you've entered. It will run several different analyses on it, I suppose, and it will present you with suggestions, and it will present you with suggestions at the word level or sentence level. Many of the users struggle to read, and so you can listen to the suggestions and click the tick and it will replace it. So, well, I think it's intuitive. Give it a go and tell me where it's not intuitive. That's what I need.
Yeah. Well, you can't get a better opportunity than this. And we're all about really promoting people who are doing things that are helping people with differently mired wines. Don't you love that? And I haven't even had a wine yet today. You've differently wired minds.
Slipped into Spoonerisms, which was one of my favourite games.
Well, I've been prone to punning really badly, Paul. So don't get me started on that or I'll be thrown out.
Well, I sidebar from this, but as a child, I went walking for a few days with my father, and we spoke the entire 3 days in Spoonerisms. And it was... So I've always played with language. I've always enjoyed language. And that's why this is important to me because language is the way which we share our thoughts, and we all have to be able to interact with text. That's just the nature of the world. And so we need to make sure that the barriers to that are as low as possible. And so I'm focused very specifically on writing, taking what's up here, getting it onto the page. And so you can share, because you sort of step way, way back and you think, okay, what's the cost of not doing it? Well, the question is, how many dyslexic minds are we missing out on the value from? So how many Jamie Olivers, how many Richard Bransons, how many endless other examples of highly successful people who had a torrid time at school were told for years that there's no value, and despite it they succeed.
My partner's one. He's an amazing drummer, and I watch him on the drums. He's so talented, and yet he's dyslexic and struggled at school. And you know what that does? I mean, I know many, many, many other really creative people who are dyslexic, is they walk away thinking that they're a bit thick, and they are not. They're anything but. The fact they've got advanced facial reasoning. There's heaps of research that now shows us that.
Yes, it just strikes me as such a waste. It's such a waste. There is so much potential to contribute that we have in people who disengage because historically they were told that they were thick, they were stupid, they were incapable, they'd amount to nothing. Now we're beginning to turn the corner on that, but let's not only tell people that they have value, that's important, that we should do that, but let's also provide them with the tools so they can participate.
Love it.
Simple.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's simple, and yet the barriers to entry are still big because it's getting the word out there. That's why we're excited to share this message today. We'll be sharing it on every forum we can, and
thank you,
pointing as many people as we can your way. It's just awesome what you do. Any closing comments?
Anyone with interest in this, I would love to hear from you. So if you're in a school and you'd like to try it with the kids in your school, give me a call. Get in touch via the website. If you're a researcher, actually, I'm looking for academics to help me understand the impact on cognitive load, the impact on self-esteem, all of these other consequential things that come from engagement in education. I'm looking for people to help research in that area. Or if you're an individual who has a family member with dyslexia or who struggles with other literacy challenges, give it a go and let me know what you think. I'd love to know. It
doesn't matter what age they are. There's no barrier to entry.
5 to 52, so I want someone younger and someone older, please.
Can you get rid of that 52 and make it a bit older?
52, yeah. Let's see. I'm sure there are... Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Lovely to chat.
See you, everyone.